I'm Luke. Today on Out of Darts, we are checking out a very unique blaster. This is Diana. This is the Diana blaster. Now, this has been making the rounds online, but I do think we're among the first to get it here in the US. Thank you very much, the people that sent this to me. I had to arrange this through a private party sale. It was a little bit of extra work because the initial batch from the manufacturer is sold out. Diana is a very unique blaster in that this is a brushless micro flywheel build. The closest blaster I can think of to this is truly 3D printed. It's the PewPew blaster. The difference being here, we've got a nylon shell, and this is a production blaster, meaning it is not 3D printed, it's all injection molded. This is made by a company called HC. I do not know what HC stands for. If we know by the time we post this video, we'll put it up on the screen. And on the front here, we've got brushless motor control system, Diana, the brushless soft blaster. Soft, I would assume, is some sort of translation for dart or the play style. But at the end of the day, what we have is a really ultra compact, a great form factor. We'll talk a little more on the silhouette a little bit later, but it is a very, very well designed blaster. The grip, starting with the ergonomics, is very, very comfortable. You've got weight throughout and a nice weight in the front from your battery right here. It actually just feels very balanced. This blaster is, of course, a short dart blaster using a proprietary mag. The proprietary mag holds 10 to 11, 12 darts, depending on how many you shove inside, and the blaster has a really good feel with that magazine there. Despite having the proprietary mag, we did already modify a Nightingale mag, and really all that was needed to do is one little hole over here on the left side of the magazine as it's facing forward. It wasn't too difficult to do. I just used a Dremel to drill out a little bit of there. You could probably do a cleaner job by heat cutting, maybe with an X-Acto knife and a lighter or a heat gun. I actually did both sides, as you can see here. You don't need to do that. Here you'll see another hole that I cut for, what was that blaster, Perry? Fire Rat. The Fire Rat, yeah. So Nightingale is getting a lot of abuse here, but it does work very well. The Diana is a full auto or semi-automatic blaster. You've got a 3-position switch here. All the way back is off, so it's safe, does not fire. I do have the LiPo in there already. The middle position here is semi-automatic, and the last position is full auto. And this blaster is just incredibly snappy. It feels very, very good. The only thing that can beat it in terms of spin-up time and response is probably either momentum or PewPew. And I don't know if that's the tuning of the motors, but there is a little bit more delay than I would normally see on the momentum. That being said, it has another trick up its sleeve. On the left side of the blaster, there's a switch here that turns on the idling mode. And you're barely gonna hear this, but I'm gonna hold it up to my mic here. It's so quiet that at arm's length from me, I can't hear those motors spinning. But what's happening there is those motors are already spinning in the correct direction. And so when you go to take a shot, it only has to go from low RPM to high RPM rather than determining the right way to go and spin up from a dead stop. That first initial spin up of a flywheel takes the majority of the time. So this cuts some spin up time when you're actually firing singles or full auto. And it's worth noting, this is easily the quietest blaster I have ever heard. The darts going through the flywheel make a really poppy, loud sound because it is very, very high crush, like a lot of similar builds. However, the actual spin up of the flywheels itself is very quiet. And I don't really have a great way to compare that for you, but it is easily the quietest flywheel blaster I've ever heard. So I'm gonna put in this Nightingale magazine and do a few more full auto shots. Now let's switch that to semi. Really, really snappy. One really nice design detail I've noticed here, 2 sides here are anodized aluminum, and this aluminum is actually also the cage mount. I believe it goes all the way around and underneath, a little bit like PewPew. So I have to say there's probably some inspiration here, or at least inspiration from the drone industry, which is where some of these manufacturers come from. But this heatsink here gets fairly hot under use, and I would assume that's a good thing because it's shedding heat from the motors. One note about build quality here, this just feels like a tank. I mean, this is some of the thickest shell, solid plastic walls that I've seen on any blaster. It really has a nice, solid feel, and it feels pretty hefty in your hand. One of my big gripes, however, is this itty bitty tiny battery door screw up at the front. I just can see that being a problem long term. It's a little tiny 1.5 millimeter Allen key. So it's a little bit difficult getting that in and out, but I think that was a space constraint thing. I would have loved to have seen that been a little bit bigger or somehow a thumb screw. Visually, I really like the blaster, but it does bring up one very important point, and that is this is the closest looking to a firearm I've pretty much seen in our hobby. So there are definitely some use cases and situations where you're gonna wanna be really careful with this blaster. This is reasonably bright, but I really think this should, well, A, it should have an orange tip, and B, I would like to see more orange on the blaster overall. So we are interested in carrying these on the shop. I haven't worked out details with the company yet, but I am hoping that we get something in the works fairly soon. If you're interested in seeing these on the shop, do let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on them. It's a very new product, and they sold out the initial batch in China, and we have to wait until at least batch 2 to get any here stateside. Price point, I can't exactly say where these are gonna fall, but it's around the $300 price point, which seems to me, considering it's a brushless flywheel blaster, pretty impressive, honestly. So I hope we see more of these in the future. As far as performance, the blaster is hitting up to about 140, so it's really right in there at that PewPew level of performance. Now, it's stuck at the FPS it is. There's no way to dial it up or down. Keep that in mind. If you wanted this for HVZ for 130, you might be a little out of luck. I don't know if they're gonna have any options, but there are no ports or access to anything that I have seen here to change the performance overall. Due to the really high crush, we have seen a few dart deheadings, but it is going to depend on the age of your darts and what quality they are and how many times they've been fired. A lot of these microflywheeler systems that are really high crush are a lot harder on darts than a full-size flywheel or a medium to full-size, something like we have in Momentum or in your average Daybreak setup. They just have less time to contact with the darts, so they have to get it through in fewer revolutions, and those revolutions are higher. They're spinning faster, so you end up with a pretty short contact time with the dart, which means there's a lot of stress on that dart head overall. That said, it doesn't seem like a game changer or a deal breaker on this blaster, and I can't wait to get this out in the field. I think it's a really impressive offering. I would love to get this on the shop. I hope we will have these, so do stay tuned. I will get an email list going for these as well. And until next time, I'm out of darts.